But let's get to some 3:30 games now, done with the noon slate. Notre Dame at USC, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. Playoff implications. So Notre Dame pretty much is locked in, I would say, even if with a loss to USC. I would imagine they would host a game if they win. Maybe they're eliminated with a loss. I don't think they would be at 10-2, but it's a conversation.
It would be close.
It would be really close.
It would be very close because they have wins over A&M and Army. That's really what they're sitting on.
And I think they're number 5 in the AP poll right now, so it would be like falling from 5. I know we'll see what the playoff ranking is.
They would maybe even be in that very last spot.
Yeah, that's why
it's not a ton of great wins there.
And it's also because Notre Dame, they don't play in a conference, so they can't have a automatic bid. They have to fight for an at-large spot, one of the 7 at-large spots as well. A 10-2 Notre Dame would likely still make the 12-team field, but it's not guaranteed. They obviously lost in Northern Illinois. That's worse than any other playoff contenders lost this year. But they do have 2 really nice wins in Texas A&M and Army as well this past week, and Army's still a ranked team to make up for it. Beating USC would guarantee Notre Dame is hosting a first-round playoff game. And but the loss from Notre Dame would, like I said, push them to the brink of elimination.
Serious danger.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's another case where, let's say South Carolina got a big win at Clemson, and you're talking about for that last spot between those two. I think you'd have you a debate.
And South Carolina also killed Texas A&M, the team that Notre Dame also beat, which that's their big win.
So you've got that head-to-head, plus they'll be coming off a Clemson win. I mean, I think Notre Dame would be very much in danger if they mess around and lose this game.
I don't know if they would be left out. It would be a far way to fall for number 5 all the way out after 1 week, but I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a very weird one. I think, obviously, be safe. You just win this game, and you're guaranteed to host a game, though, in the first round of the playoff. But, Dawn, you have the USC offense, who's made a change at quarterback from our guy, Miller Moss, who we interviewed. You can check out that interview. He's a great guy. But they made a change from him to Jaden Mayava now as their new starting quarterback. So what should we be looking out for when he and the Trojans in the ball?
Yeah, usually I go with the complicated stuff and find schemes and all that. And let's just face it, Notre Dame is really darn good on defense, right? And Jaden Mayava, he was the starter for the most part at UNLV last year. Didn't start the first 2 games, but started the rest of the way and got them into the Mountain West title game. Had an okay season, kind of was the beneficiary of a lot of his mistakes not being turned into interceptions. Actually, the second most dropped interceptions in the country last year. And this is what I'm worried about with Mayava. Now, USC's game plan, they're going to run the ball with Woody Marks. And I think it's going to be a lot of the conservative stuff that Lincoln Riley has in his offense. A lot of quick balls to the flat, a lot of screens. I think a lot of what you saw in the first half against Penn State when they got the ball quick to the outside and they made Penn State kind of chase them and make open field tackles. They're going to see a lot of that. But if they get behind the chains, down in distance, right, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, things like that, can Mayava just avoid big mistakes? Because this is not a defense you want to make big mistakes again. Last year, 24 turnover-worthy plays, even though he didn't start the first 2 games of the season, 4th most in the country. His 5.9% turnover-worthy play rate was the highest in the country last year of any quarterback with 250 attempts. His first start against Nebraska this year, two weeks ago, 3 turnover-worthy plays. Last week against UCLA, didn't have any. Okay, cool. They won a low-scoring game against UCLA, but you can't make these mistakes against a Notre Dame team that's 2nd in the country in coverage grade. They have the 6th most interceptions. It's an elite unit. Even without Benjamin Morrison, they've continued to be an elite coverage unit. It is one of the hardest defenses to line up and throw the ball against, and I'm telling you right now, USC is going to want to stay ahead of the chains. I mean, you're talking about Xavier Watts back there, ball hawking. Leonard Moore has been good on the outside. You got a good pass rush up front. It's just one of these things where USC, again, down in distance. Don't make Mayava throw it down the field too often against this defense because there are times when he is very mistake-prone.
Yeah, he's had some issues this year as well. And USC has had some issues in their run defense, which is a big problem, Dawn, against an elite rushing attack that Notre Dame has because their offense is really centered around that ground game. Only Miami has a higher rushing grade and higher EPA per run than Notre Dame among Power 4 schools so far this year. And the Fighting Irish are 5th in the Power 4 with a 75.8 run blocking grade. They are 2nd in the Power 4 in yards per carry. 3 different players have at least 500 rushing yards this year. And Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and their quarterback, Riley Leonard. So it's not like it's just Ashton Ginty, like Boise State or anything like that. They have a 3-headed monster in that backfield with Price, Love, and obviously Riley Leonard as well. USC's defense is only 89th in run defense grade this year with a 76.9 mark. They've allowed fewer than 100 rushing yards just twice this year, Utah State and Maryland. Not necessarily the toughest competition there against those two. So the only times this year where they allowed fewer than 100 rushing yards were those two schools. And Dalton, they're missing some key players in their front seven. Edge defender Anthony Lucas is done for the season with a lower body injury. Defensive tackle Bear Alexander and linebacker Eric Gentry both opted out of the remainder of the season as well. They have not faced a rushing attack as potent as Notre Dame's either. So stopping the run needs to be the point of emphasis for USC this week. But you look at it right now, like I said, they're 89th in run defense grade, and they have not played a rushing attack nearly as good as Notre Dame's. That could be a big problem for the Trojans on Saturday.
I have to respect Notre Dame for embracing their identity here with Riley Leonard, because they don't have, first of all, they don't have a plethora of great receivers, if any. Plus, Leonard is not exactly, he's talented, but he's not exactly the type of guy you want dropping back throwing the ball 45 times a game, right? They want to run the football, including with him. He's a really good athlete and a really tough runner, right? I mean, he can make those plays, and then he can work off play action 20 to 25 times a game, right? Especially with their defense. I think it can be very much a ball control offense, and then allow your defense to make stops and just grind teams down in a physical manner, right? And I think Leonard does, his feet give them a dimension that Sam Hartman didn't give them last year. Hartman, a more traditional pocket passer, whereas Leonard being the third factor and the option factor in this offense has made him really dangerous. And I think it is a problem, especially if you don't have all your horses on the defensive line. It's a serious problem going up against this Irish offense.
It always reminds me a little bit of like the Florida offense back in the day with Tim Tebow, right? With a power run game with the quarterback and all that. Every time I watch, I get flashbacks to like the 07, 08 Florida teams with like the quarterback run. And obviously Tebow could throw the ball a little bit as well, but a lot of play action. That's where he made his money. It's kind of what Riley Leonard is doing right now as well for the Fighting Irish a little bit, it feels like to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be the first problem. We've said it all year. If you can get Notre Dame in obvious passing situations, you stand a chance.
Yeah.
But that's a major if, because they are constantly ahead of the chains. And honestly, especially you see Jeremiah Love with explosive runs left and right. It's a problem. It's problem number one. If you don't stop the run against Notre Dame, they're going to dictate the pace.
Remember Jeremiah Love last week? What he had 7 touches for 140 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That was his stat line.
Hurdling people and cutting back and doing all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's times for this Notre Dame run game right now where it just looks way too easy.
He averaged like 20 yards per touch against Army and half a touchdown per touch against Army as well. That's a good day.
It's good enough.
It's a good day for the running back.
Job done.
Yeah, he's a really good player, and we'll talk about him for next year as well. But Dawn, ultimately, will Notre Dame clinch a first-round home playoff game, or will USC upset them and push the Fighting Irish to the brink of elimination?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I think this game is about down and distance. And for Notre Dame, obviously, they want to keep running the football. And I think for their defense, you want to stop Woody Marks, right? Because he's had some really good days this year. He's got 1,100 yards this year. Woody Marks has had a really nice year transferring over from Mississippi State for them. And then you got to make open field tackles on the outside. Screen game, 20% of the passes roughly from USC's offense are screens. Got to get out there and tackle these guys, right? You got Deuce Robinson on the outside. You got Zachariah Branch, who, look, they haven't had as great a year at receiver as we thought they would, the Trojans, but still dangerous athletes out there. And we saw against Penn State in the first half, like I mentioned, they made them make open field tackles. For the first half, they didn't really do it. Second half, they adjusted, and it got better. But I like Notre Dame in this game. I like their defense. I like this matchup with Jaden Maiava at quarterback for USC. I'll take Notre Dame 28-19. Still think there's a road factor. I still think Lincoln Riley could put something together, especially to give him some trouble early, but I think eventually Notre Dame's just a better team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got Notre Dame winning this one 31-20. I think the run game is going to dominate on USC, and I think Notre Dame's stingy defense has played like one of the best in America so far this year. I believe right now they are top 10 in defensive grade so far this year as well. They'll hold Jaden Maiava and Lincoln Riley's Trojans in check. They put the finishing touches on their playoff resume with an 11-1 record, and Notre Dame will officially host a playoff game. So a playoff game in South Bend, Indiana. We might have to go to that.
Might be an option.
That might be the one we go to.
Options.
Yeah.
We got to figure it out. I can't wait to see these matchups in that first round, but you're right. They're going to get a home game if they win this.
Absolutely. So we both got Notre Dame winning that one and clinching a home game in the college football playoff. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.